Good evening, everybody. It's Friday night, my friends. And I am back. I'm ready to jump in. There's some more coding tonight. Ooh, I had a feeling that was off kilter. I don't know why the camera migrated so far over that way in the first place, but it did. Move it down just, but there we go. All right, camera fixing complete. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome. Hope everyone has been having a good week so far. You're ready to face the weekend and thrive in all of those things. Or if your weekend has already started, hopefully it started off on a good foot so far. So a couple things. We're going to kind of move along with the current theme here, which is kind of just getting some basic operations done with the Hex project here. I know that I have to look at some Dependabot updates as we usually do. Get those down here. Last week we tackled a little bit of the putting the hooks in for following and for banning, but I don't have them completely wired in yet. Like, I've got the idea of it here, but I don't have it, and doing audits and stuff. Hey, Danish, welcome. Or Danish, I should say. And so I got the sort of the basics of that going along the same realm now. In order for like the band stuff to kind of work, we need like moderators and stuff that you can select for a channel and things like that. So basically going to work on some channel roles as well right now. It kind of, it feels a little bit like we're skipping around, but you kind of have to have all these things in place to kind of get them all to glue together correctly. So we're going to work a little bit on that after we get whatever Dependabot says here has been updated. Looks like a lot of updates. So we'll get those squared away. And then at some point, I'm hoping some point this weekend, either, probably tomorrow's stream, hopefully. I'm going to have to hunt, and I'm going to have to actually start getting some tests written, which means we're probably going to write them live as we're going here. Let me turn this down just one more notch there. Sounds like it's a little bit loud. So I'm going to want to do that. I'm going to want to kind of get that. I really have to get those in place. I really have to get a good test suite in place, and that includes the integration test, particularly integration tests. I want to be able to get that suite figured out, because I've got like a little bit here and a little bit there, and ideas about how those things are going to work together, but whether or not they actually do work together is another story. So I want to start getting through some of that as well. What changed me off? Depends upgrades. Okay. All right, fair enough. Prove that. And post gray goes up to 42.7.3. I'm not even going to look at the release notes here because it's going to be probably a whole lot of stuff. To accept it. Maven compiler plugin has quite a few fixes. Okay, probably all right. Spring security goes up a patch. For null authentication, handler order problem. Let's see upgrades. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't throw all our stuff into a problem here. Never really know until you do it. And textile, yeah, that's fine. Cut down. Jackson goes up to another minor patch, huh? Okay. Alright. Interesting. Well, I'm not using it. Well, I'm using it, but I'm not using it extensively enough yet that I think it's going to be a problem. Like, I'm not doing any custom serializers right now. Eventually will be when we do some integrations, but for now, HTMX goes up a patch release. It's got a lot of stuff. I'm looking through, nothing jumps out at me as something that's going to be a problem for us right now. So, good. That, approve. That. Okay. So we're up to date now on Texas pull request. Now we look at green mail, GUI ones. As many. Check style and Spring Framework. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That said, I think Penabot runs like right after, like on Saturday, right after stream, or Sunday or something like that, and it after I've done all these changes for stuff, immediately has 50 more changes. All right, got those resolved. So now should be able to pull those down. Oh. And for the sake of argument, let's make sure we're still in a good spot. Let's do a clean build here. Make sure everything still runs. Okay, and getting that. It did get that problem where it doesn't does this occasionally, and I still don't know why. Usually, it won't actually. It says it built things and then doesn't actually build. So. Okay, do it second time here. Yeah, now it built. I don't know why that does that. And it's like sporadic. It doesn't happen every time, just sometimes. So onto the channel here. And follow and unfollow. I still have to do that. Test events. Alright, cool. And I should be able to send. Oops. God, I don't have enter up yet on there. And that's the 3. Is that what it was? Yeah, there we go. And then that's still working, and this should give me the bigger version. Yep, cool. All right, it's still working right now. Yeah, I do have to integrate the emote menu and all that stuff too at some point, but all that kind of depends on roles you have, and well, not actually what roles, but whether or not you're subscribed or not, and that's why I'm building this whole foundation of what I gotta do there. So that's where we're at right there. Okay. Okay, just so. Sure. A little bit. So I need a channel roll table is what I need right now. So I was thinking about like how I want to do this. So I want to have like role IDs, and then when you log in, you have all these permission codes and stuff. And I thought, nah, there's not really going to be that many that aren't. Not going to be that many for the roles that you have will be more numerous as far as like the number of channels than they will be as far as you know, the actual types of roles. And I want to kind of make it fairly straightforward. So I'm thinking of just having kind of a flat table where we would do, see if we can get that started here. So if I migrations, it's, we'll call it initial channel roles here. All right, it's going to be 03 22 2024 21 31 40. And we want to call this channel role. So what's the thing here? So this would be channel ID. Yeah, I think it's going to be one row per person, I think is the way I want to do that. So it's going to be a compound primary key that will be channel ID and then target the user. So say yeah. Sorry, I was looking at that. Confused for a moment there. Primary key is channel ID and target. The rollback should be channel roll. This would be roles. Channel identities would channel ID is identity ID. Want to go against the ID table or want to have it come off? I want to have it come off the channel, right? Yeah. I want to have it come off the channel table. So it'll be channels, user. Yeah. User ID. Right, and then channel role target identities would be target user ID would then go against the identity table. A user in the system. All right, and we'll get rid of those two. This is another one of those. Do you remove them or do you just deactivate? I think in this particular case, it's just better to have you remove the record if their roles are removed. Yeah, because we still, even if somebody has a role, we still have to link it back to the identities table and make sure that that person is active and not platform banned and all that stuff. There's that. The other interesting interaction there is, we have the ban stuff now. Actually wondering, because we have the followers table, and in the followers table we have whether or not someone is banned. To have a channel role, I feel like you should have to be a follower. So that kind of begs the question, should I shove the channel roles into the follower table? For simplicity's sake. And basically say you can only add people who are following you to roll on your channel. Because the benefit to doing that would be I wouldn't have to go and link back the other table just to see whether or not someone is banned. If they're banned, then they're banned from the channel, then they should lose all their privileges. So I have to link back to the identities table and make sure they're not system banned. But that's going to be a thing regardless. And if they're no longer, of course, by doing that, I'm now tying it to following. So if they're no longer following you, if they click unfollow, then they no longer have any privileges on your channel. Which, to me, to my ears, sounds fair. And that said, I don't delete anything from the followers table. Like, they just go from active to inactive. So if they were to then follow you back, like maybe they were testing something or whatever, or they accidentally hit the unfollow or whatever, as soon as they'd follow you back, they would have their privileges restored again immediately. So I'm wondering if that makes, like, from a data perspective, it doesn't. The thing that I'm struggling with is, like, if I think about it from like functionality / data perspective, it makes sense to have these as all separate tables. In fact, it really makes sense to have the banned users as a separate table as well. But from a like convenience perspective, when it comes to like writing the queries for that and stuff, instead of joining 25 tables together, you could just theoretically put all that in the one table. Because though they are separate concepts, they are heavily tied to one another. And I mean, there's nothing that says if there's a good reason to pull them out later, that and pull them out later into their own table. I mean, it'd be a lot of work, but if there's a compelling reason to do it, then there's a compelling reason to do it. I mean, there's the thought of like caching and stuff. What, would you want to cache all that data somewhere? But I think for channel, for these particular features, I don't think there's a reason to cache that data. I mean, there is and there isn't. Like from the chatting perspective, like obviously we'll have to check the chat functionality. We'll have to check what roles you have and stuff to make sure that it shows the correct icons and the correct privileges, and that it allows you to do the things you're allowed to do. The same with like emotes, what emotes you have access to or don't have access to. But there's nothing that says you couldn't still I could, like, if I really wanted to, I could just leave that one row. Like each user would have one row for the channel that they're on, and there's nothing that says I couldn't just leave that row in memory somewhere for whatever channel they're looking at. And if I need to cache it, we'd have an event that would clear it out and pull it back in there. Hey, Vizzy, welcome. So it's possible I could, even if it's all in one table, it's still possible to cache it and stuff. And you'd be caching all the interrelated data together. I mean, it's also true if you had multiple tables, but you'd be caching the objects instead of the actual, table rows. Obviously, going pretty good. Just getting glad the weekend is here. Finally out of crunch mode at work. I managed to finish what I was doing. So I had a really simple day today, work. So it was code complete day today. So finally say I'm out of the crunch, which is good. Have to be available for, fixing any bugs that might come up, but otherwise, feeling a little bit better. I can finally breathe a little bit. The kids are always good if you have them off. Not ready for wasp season. Oh yeah. Yeah, I only, knock on wood, I have not had issues with wasps. There was a yellow jacket that made one of those mud nests, up in the corner of the house with the outside near the drain spout. So that was you shoot that from a distance with your with the can of bug spray and go and run as fast as you can. So but thankfully I didn't, that one never came back after it got a little taste of that. But yeah, you terrified of those things. Oh yeah, I mean they're anything that could sting you multiple times for no reason at all is a terrifying thing. You have to deal with them at work, so you have to go on top of tanks. Yeah, I can imagine. A lot of like nooks and crannies where those things like to nest. I mean, there's some of the trees around here have really big bee nests in them. You can see them with the leaves all off here. You can see them like hanging around. So we definitely have them, but they're, thankfully have been kind of keeping to themselves for the most part, which is good. Now the worst thing, not really the worst thing, but the thing that I usually get, and it'll start to happen like next week or so. Now we're into spring. I'll get I'll just be sitting here and I'll just hear a loud, bang against one of the windows, and it'll be a bird that just thought it could, that didn't see the window in front of it and just go smash its face against the window. So that's usually what I get around now. Is they kind of get confused. They end up running headlong into a window, and then just stand on the windowsill, just kind of looking a little bit dazed for a little while, and then go flying away. So yeah, that and we'll start to get all the pollen on the cars. The thin layer of green, like yellowish green pollen just collecting on the cars. That's always fun. One thing I'm glad I kind of avoided. I managed to come out with no allergies. So, but even with no allergies, there are days like when stuff starts to bloom that even I can feel it, and I'm like, man, if I had allergies, this would be rough. Thankfully, I don't. There have been some days where even I'm like, oof, I can feel it in the air, So that's, but I'm generally happy that the weather, I'm like, we've had a cold spot again because, Canada just won't let us have a break. But they just keep exporting cold air constantly. I mean, I don't, some people say that Canada exports maple syrup. I think they just export cold air. They just love to make everyone else in the Northeast of the United States miserable. So I think next week the temperature's going to kick back up again, which is good, so I can kind of get out and get back to some exercising. I haven't been able to exercise that much this week. I got like 1 or 2 days in when the temperature was warmer, but like when it's like today it was like in the 40s. I just can't do anything below 50 really. Even the low 50s is kind of pushing it a little bit, because I get like my hands get unnaturally cold. Even if I'm just going out for a walk, I like have to constantly have my hands in my pockets, and it's just one of those weird things where I guess theoretically I could wear gloves too, but it's one of those things where if I wear too much, I'm gonna sweat so badly that it's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be miserable, right? So I have to kind of like find that middle ground where I'll sweat, but not, to the point where I'm just like trailing a river behind me, kind of thing. So that's where I have to kind of juggle that a little bit. Um, but yeah, I'm just trying to like reintegrate all that exercise and stuff back into my routine as much as I can. Um, Now the weather's getting a little bit warmer. I'm hoping I can get more consistent weeks in with it, because it's definitely making a difference. I've lost a good amount. I don't want to calculate it just yet because I want to see what it is for the entire month. But hopefully I can this next week kind of get it back down to where it was. Like I was down to a really good number, and I want to keep going, but it's hard to, like, without that exercise in there. Like I have stuff that I can do inside the house, but I don't burn quite as much as I do if I just go for a 3-mile walk. And that's the difficulty, is like I love walking and I love running. They also, burn a hell of a lot of calories. But if I do anything else, I don't burn anywhere near as much. Even if I were to like lift or something, I wouldn't burn nearly as much. And it's something I love, but at the same time, it's really hard to like just stay consistent with it unless you have equipment in the house to do it, which I'm working on, but it's going to take a little bit yet to do that. So yeah, fun stuff. Now the fog of war is lifting a little bit, I can kind of, when it comes to like work stuff, I can kind of start to get some other stuff situated here. I get other things I gotta get done, whatnot. Yeah, is there any benefit to me making this a separate game? I'm kind of thinking there's no benefit to me making it a separate table. I think tying these channel roles into the follower table just kind of makes sense. I mean, I guess, if you add or remove roles later on, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because you're manipulating a larger table. But I guess from that perspective, it could be a little bit of a pain. But at the same time, when you think about like the amount of information you need to say that this person has like moderator privileges and stuff, it also makes a lot of sense because they have to, because you have quite a few columns you have to check. Huh. The only caveat would be won't be able to tell how long someone has been a moderator for. Like if I make it a separate table, you'll be able to see, oh, this person was. Well, that's actually, no, the way I have it, the way I was going to do it, I wouldn't be able to tell either, because every time you update their roles, it's going to. If I really wanted to tell that, I'd have to put that in an audit log, which I think I'd want an audit log for that too. Like I think more likely is that I really want a channel role audit log, or at least a channel audit log. Because we have like ban audit, which is good. But I think a channel audit log as well makes sense there, where it's anything you've changed with regards to the channel. Because if a moderator comes in, or if an editor comes in and changes your title and all that stuff, you'll want to be as the owner of the channel. You'll want to know that happened. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I need it. I don't think I need channel roles table. The more I think about it. Let me look at the followers table here. Active, banned, timed out, notifications. Because the rest of the roles, I was just thinking of this, having them be just basically Boolean column that I would just add to the table. The more I look at, I really don't like target user ID. That's very confusing. I should just call it channel. And it should go against. Well, not channel followers. I mean, that's why I called it that. It's not channel followers. It's you can follow other users whether they have a channel or not. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, but like, active and banned. I mean, you can ban followers or time them out, even if you don't have a channel. Especially if I'm going to have like some kind of Yeah, if I'm gonna have some kind of hosting thing, like a social section or whatever, banning and I mean timing out doesn't really make sense there necessarily, but banning makes sense there. From that perspective, like you could ban people from your feed. I guess technically you're banning them from following you. I guess timing out would be like essentially muting them. Although that would also have an effect on the channel, which I guess would make sense. Well, but I think but the permission stuff. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm on the right track here. I think calling it channel roles is good. Would there be like social roles too? Like, would you let, I don't think you would let anyone else write social posts for you. I mean, some, like some might, but I don't think that would be a good idea in general. But even if that were the case, you could have like a social roles or something. Table that just has those in it. Because those would be separate from your channel roles. At least in my head. So, okay, I think I've convinced myself again that this is the right way with this table. It means the queries are going to be a little bit... You have to query a few more things, get stuff back. Going to be some cross-pollination when it comes to the objects and stuff, but I think it's still... I think it might still be a better thing to keep it separate. Yeah, I think we'll go with this. We'll go with keeping it separate right now. So, channel ID, target user ID. Then I need kind of the role. So then what this will be then is if you don't have any roles or you lose your roles, we're gonna have to check to make sure that you're a follower of the channel. I do think this should come off of the, or have some interrelationship with followers. But whether that's a database relationship or a business relationship is another thing. It might be a relationship that only happens in the code rather than in the database. Yeah, I think, okay. I think it's going to have to be a relationship that only happens outside, in the Java code and not in the database itself. Restricting it to just your followers. So, all right. So we'll say, wish there was an easy way to get back to that. I mean, there's like, because I'm thinking about, in my head, I'm thinking of like queries at the right, and basically just run two separate queries. One to check that they're a follower, and not banned. You have to check that like constantly. I mean, I could join on it. Nameless Coder, welcome on in. Thank you for the raid. I don't know why my alerts didn't go off. Weird. But thank you. Welcome on in. How are you doing? I am working on a hobby project where I'm trying to make a streaming service similar to Twitch or YouTube. That is my grand scheme of things. I'm still very, very early stages. Still getting the framework together. But it's ambitious, but it's something I'm looking at. I'm also going to be probably taking on pretty soon, we'll see, writing a bot, like a chat bot slash event bot and stuff for, showing on OBS, showing events and stuff for hopefully for live space and also Twitch and a few others. I'm kind of in the initial thought process around how I'm going to do that. I'd like to try to do that live on stream from scratch, that kind of thing. So what am I using to make it? It's probably all going to be Java, most likely. So the bot that I'm thinking about will be obviously the streaming site's obviously going to be like a server based thing, but I'm kind of thinking in the same terms for the bot, except not like it'll be a small server that the bot spins up locally on your machine, and you'll interact with the bot through your browser and stuff, but you'll be pointing to your local machine to do it. The tricky part there is doing all the OAuth stuff. I've been looking at OAuth libraries, OAuth proxies, and I have to see how the OAuth proxy works. I think I can have like just the OAuth piece be out on the web, and then have that kind of come back to the local host and redirect and all that stuff, and then have the security go that way. So we'll see. Also using Eclipse, yeah. Eclipse is my go-to IDE for Java, at least. It's long in the tooth and it's old and it's kind of clunky in spots, but it still gets the job done. And I'm so used to it at this point that it just, a lot of things are kind of second nature about it. But yeah, doing that. And otherwise, I'm good. I'm doing good. Just kind of rolling along here right now. I'm debating. So I'm adding in the ability to have. So I've done followers last week. Beginnings of followers, being able to follow a channel, and I have the beginnings of like being able to ban and time out users. But before I can really finish that, I need to have the concept of channel roles, so moderators and editors and other things. And so I've been kind of here debating whether I want that to be a separate table, which I think I've decided I do, and what that table looks like. And then I'm trying in my head to figure out what the queries are going to look like, because I feel like one of the things that I think is going to be a requirement here is that you need to be following a channel in order to get a role in the channel. And right now I don't have a connection between this table that I'm making and the followers table. And I'm wondering whether I should hunt and do that, like add a non-compound primary key to the followers table or not. Can you stream yet, or will that be done less? You can't stream yet. That is like one of the harder things I'm trying to tackle. I've been trying to do like a little think about it and try to get some stuff done like off camera with that. Because I started to work on like an RTMP solution. Because the ones that are out there for Java are not maintained, and they're all kind of their own sort of clunkiness. They're not exactly what I'm looking for. But then I thought I also want to look at WebRTC. And I've never done anything quite like that before, so I want to kind of figure out the WebRTC stuff, since OBS is now supporting that and everything. And I'd like to do that through like have a server that supports WebRTC ingest and all that stuff. So I haven't really tackled that yet. That's like the biggest thing. Like none of this other stuff matters if that doesn't work. And so it's kind of been one of those sort of clouds hanging over my head, because I'm like, I need to somehow figure this out, but at the same time I've never done anything like it before, so it's a rough one. You know. But it is something that I want to do sooner rather than later, because I don't want to get so far down the path that I don't have like one of the most fundamental things done. Like being able to stream to a streaming site is the most fundamental thing besides chat, and I'm working on chat now. But there will come a point where the chat stuff and it, kind of works as it is right now. But there's a point where you really need to get those foundations done before you start to move on to other things. Hey, Varuna, welcome. You have a good week, or at least a good coding session going? Yep, been having a good week. I'm finally out of the woods, finally out of the crunch mode at the day job, coding. Our code complete was today, and I finished everything I needed to do yesterday, so good stuff all around. It was a nice, easy day today. So now I'm finally my mind is finally clearing back up again. I can start to think about other things and get other things situated. So yeah, it's been a good week. One of the things I was doing was I've been working on an integration with a third party, and it's been complicated. The code itself is, I feel like anybody who writes an integration module that functionality where you're integrating with some third party, almost always there's bits and pieces of it that you're really not proud of. And that's where I'm at. There's a whole lot of this that's born out of just absolute desperation. Desperation is not the right word. More born out of just necessity, right? The company that we're integrating with, their API is very disjointed and very amateurish. And so I'm in a position where we've got data, they have data, and the two pieces of data really don't interconnect well at all. So there's a lot of just kind of massaging you got to do to try to make those two things, fit together, make those two pieces fit together. And that's been kind of the big issue for the last couple releases. I'm at a point now where I have a solution. It works somewhat. We're getting some good feedback so far. It's for the most part it's doing what it needs to do, but obviously there's always the data is not quite gelling all the time. It's maybe gelling 60% of the time, and then 40% of the time it needs some manual intervention and stuff. But it's been a source of a lot of stress too. Because it's just one of those things where it's clients expect 100% functionality, and you can only really give them about probably 80 or 90%, because it's just the two pieces of data just do not say the same thing in the same way. Sometimes you have to do some dirty fixes, and that's that. Yeah, it's oh, all right. Well, thanks for dropping by, Nameless, and have a good night. So yeah, it's just kind of it's an ill-fitting feature that is absolutely necessary, but at the same time employs some black magic. It's just you hit the ceiling pretty quickly with like how much success you can have with it. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately. And it's one thing to work with a company that is enthusiastic and willing to like change and grow and make it into a true partnership where they'll fix up some things. And it's another thing to work with one that they're doing their own thing and they don't really give a damn if we're having struggles or not. Like all their technical staff is consultants, and it takes days to get any answers out of them, and like they slap together an API out of necessity, just so that they could have the blurb on their marketing site, and then everyone else just has to deal. And that's kind of where we're at with it's like we just have to deal with their rickety bridge. Like I tried to say to them, like, hey, I had a big write-up, and I was like, if you guys tweaked your API just a little bit here and there, I'd be able to get the exact data I need out of it without having to spam the absolute crap out of your servers. Right? Like instead of me having to make 25, say, I'm just pulling numbers out of my head here, pulling numbers out of my ass here. Instead of me having to make 25 calls to your API to get the information I want, if you made these little tweaks here, I could get the information I need in like 2 calls. And it would save you some bandwidth, and it would save us some bandwidth, and we'd all be going really fast, and I wouldn't have to have a job that runs for like 45 minutes every hour. just to get through 100 results, that kind of thing. Just throwing it out there. That's really, I guess the more frustrating part is when you have a partner, quote unquote, that doesn't really want to be a partner. All they see are kind of dollar signs on their side, and how many dollar signs you're going to make them, and they don't give a damn. But they don't want to spend any money, right? They just want you to give them all the money, and and that's it. And somehow in their minds it's mutually beneficial. But yeah, trying to join the optimization team at my work. These are how people have database calls that pull from 15 plus models for a single record or React re-renders. Yeah. I mean, that's what I've been debating, even like right here, with the roles and stuff, is like, I kind of want to put all the channel roles right into the followers table. Even though they're separate concepts, they're interconnected business-wise. In order to have roles on a channel, you gotta be a follower. But I'm kind of also thinking like, yeah, the way I have this set up, you could follow. You're not following a channel, you're following a user. Because there could be users that don't have channels, but they maybe post, and like there might be like a social feed or something. They might post things, but would not actually have an actual channel, or I've gone through the process of making a channel. So it makes sense here to be able to follow a user and also be able to ban and time out a particular user. But it doesn't really make sense to, at least from a social sense, to be able to give another user like moderator privileges and stuff. Like that's more of a channel thing. But that means I still need to make sure in the Java code at least that if you have a role in the channel, you also are following the channel. And so I can obviously interjoin on the table and make sure you're, you're active and you're not banned. And then I gotta join back to the users table, which is a little bit easier, and make sure you're not platform banned. I guess it's fine to have this as a separate table. Yeah, I'm gonna do it as a separate table, and then we'll just, if it ends up being clunky, it ends up being clunky. Just I kind of have to separate the concepts a little bit. So yeah. But I get what you're saying. Like, you have database calls that pull from all these, various models and stuff like that. I mean, that happens. That happens a lot when you just have a lot of data that makes sense being separate, but at the same time, it has to all come into play when you're trying to do, when you're trying to solve a problem on the business side of things, it's hard because you're differentiating the modeling of something from the business, but at the same time, the business has to drive the modeling of it a little bit. But you're also trying to build in some flexibility. So, like the way I'm going to do this, I'm flattening out the roles here. But by flattening them out, I'm losing the ability to know when a particular role was given to the user. Right? Because we'll have it created and the last updated, but the last updated will cover every single role, not just the one. Now I could re-architect this to say we have role codes and your users have role codes. There's not going to be that many application roles, right? And those application roles are going to, what there are going to be a lot of are a lot of channels that have application roles for the same user. Like the same user might be a moderator on 3 or 4 different channels, right? So it's like emphasizing a role code just so that you can get when that was last updated, that they last were given that role. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That said, we do need to have an audit log about role, because you want to know, it's not just roles, but anything that happens to your channel, because you want to know if a editor has changed the title of your stream and all that stuff. And you'll want to know when moderators are doing moderator actions as well. So already, I've multiplied the number of tables by 2. But they're kind of necessary at the same point, But by not modeling that in the database, it means I can't cascade delete things, which we're not really deleting. I'm not deleting followers anyway, so it makes sense, I guess. And I guess there's no, there's no reason to delete roles. There is and there isn't. Because you could just have the record in there, but they have no, all the roles are false. Huh. Might be misguided, but I somewhat blame ORM for it. It's nice for quality of life to have, but I'm pretty sure the queries it's building when polled are sometimes really bad. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you use an object relational mapping, the problem with object relational mapping is if you model your database even remotely correctly, your object model is going to explode in numerous directions, right? If you have a lot of small tables, which ultimately, if you've got a DBA who's doing like third normal form and stuff, you're probably going to have, then your object model suddenly just spirals out of control, right? You load one thing and suddenly you've got 25 tables loading. The old N+1 queries problem. If you have small number of tables with a lot of columns in them, then the ORM becomes a lot more beneficial because you're not in that same situation where you're loading, a ton of tables at once. You might be loading 1 or 2 or 3, but they're large tables and they have all the data you need in them, and you were going to load most of that data anyway, right? Like if you've got large tables that have data that by and large are going to use every column, or at least 90% of the columns, then yeah, ORM, definitely. If you have a good thing would be like if you have 3 tables that are going to participate and you're using about 90% of the columns in those tables, ORM will save you a lot of effort. If you have 6 tables and you're going to use 100% of the columns, ORM is going to start to really hurt because it's going to start to, even though you're using 100% of the columns, you are loading every single table with a separate SQL statement usually, and it's cascading down the pipeline, and you're pulling all that stuff in every time somebody asks for that object, so it's hard to wrangle those around. Like we ended up, like when we were doing Hibernate back in the day, we ended up utilizing a lot of like in place HQL queries that would do the joins for us in order to make sure we didn't load more than we needed in some cases, and so we would have a lot of times we would have 2 or 3 queries that were very similar, but one loaded only the pieces we needed. They each loaded only the pieces we needed for what we were doing, and that's the drawback. In order to make those things perform, sometimes you're just going to write even more queries than you would have written otherwise. So it's a give and take in that one, and that's why I've been kind of glad for this. Most of the companies I worked for, I had one company I worked for that used Hibernate, and really no one else did. Every other company was using just Spring JDBC or straight JDBC, you know, and just writing the queries themselves, because yeah, you're gonna have like, it's a little bit clunkier writing the query. But you are opening yourself later on to being able to optimize that better. Especially if it's like a super complicated query. We've had situations where we've had like a really, really complicated query, and we just said, you know, to the DBA, like, look, this has to do a lot of stuff. It has to pull from a lot of different tables. It has to maybe even look at a view, or even generate a temporary view and all this stuff. Like, it would be far better if you just did this as a proc, and I just called the proc, you know. And then that way, you know, it's testable outside of the code base, right? You know, someone can just run that proc and make sure it's bringing back the records they expect outside of the code. And B, the code then simplifies itself to just calling that, and you're getting all the performance of having something that's already precompiled and ready to go in the database, you know. So it's again a trade-off, you know, whichever way you do it. I'm not saying that object relational mapping stuff isn't good. It can be, but in my experience, once you get into a more complicated system, like something that starts to, you know, the number of tables start to balloon and stuff, it starts to be a noose around your neck, you know. Some time for performance. I mean, if you've got users who don't care about performance, you know, if you're doing mostly internal users who, you know, have no problem with clicking a button and then going to lunch and coming back and seeing the result, then, you know, you never have to worry about it. But most part, when you're starting to deal with like the actual public and stuff, you gotta have that stuff be pretty tightly run and you know, not take forever in a day, you know. I mean, one of the constraints that we have day job is queries have to finish within 4 minutes. We have like a hard timeout that we've set. So if a query doesn't finish in 4 minutes, it gets canceled and an error is presented to the user. Right? So there are situations where there's a lot of stuff going on in the background, a lot of data being loaded, a lot of things happening, and we have run up against that, you know, limitation at times, especially if we're displaying hundreds of records on the screen that are like cross-referenced and all kinds of things. And that's with just, you know, Spring JDBC stuff. But the good thing is, because we were using Spring JDBC, we were able to go in and tweak it and get extra performance out of it, and tweak the queries, and have a DBA look at the queries, and even take some of them and make them into procs and all that stuff. And it you know, you get something that takes, you know, 3.5 minutes back down to, you know, 1.5 minutes, and it's doing a lot of stuff. You know, that's pretty significant, you know. So, and you could do, I mean, similar feats obviously in Hibernate and Abatis and all that stuff. The problem is you may not be able to employ the help of like a DBA, right? Like if I'm writing straight SQL, I can send that SQL to DBA and say, hey, could you look at this and make this not be so ugly? And they come back and be like, yep, here you go, right? You got somebody else to help you. Someone who eats, sleeps, and breathes that stuff. You know, I mean, I know SQL, but at the same time, I don't eat, sleep, and breathe it. I have to look up things from time to time, right? You have someone else who does all the time, and that's all they do. And you can now employ their help to help out. That's a big bonus, you know? That's a big time saver, and it's a big help, you know? But if I were to say, like, here's this blob of HQL, can you help me write this better? I would just get a blank stare back, right? I mean, it looks like SQL, but it doesn't behave like. So that's the rub there. You're kind of left to your own devices to make that work. Yeah, we'll go with this. So, moderator. That would be the only 3 roles that I can think of off the top of my head. Moderator can obviously moderate chat. An editor would be able to change your these aren't really roles. These are more, I mean, they're roles, but they're not, these aren't mutually exclusive roles. You could be a moderator and an editor, or a moderator and an artist. The moderator would be just for the chat. Editor would be for like editing the title and tags and possibly other things, I guess. And the artist would be able to excuse me, upload emotes. I don't know if they'd be able to manage emote. Maybe they'd be able to upload emote that you then have to, as the channel owner, would have to, I guess, approve. Maybe not. Maybe they would get upload it, and then they would just get approved by, go through the normal system approval process. And that way you can have someone else uploading emotes for you, or managing your emote, I guess. And you'll still, and of course will still be an audit log of what they've done. So yeah, okay. I think that makes sense. Is there anything else I need in here? The thing about this is, necessarily need to delete the records from here. Probably will if you don't have any roles. But you could also have, in theory, you could have a record where they don't have any permission, but there's still a record. You know. And it will still take into account whether or not they're following. So none of these roles apply. Even if there's a record in channel roles, if they're not following the channel, none of those apply. So it'll be that. Or if they're banned from the channel, none of those, and they still have a record in here, none of the roles will apply. We'll just have to enforce that in the code. All right. I think that's how we're going here. Yes, I have channel role. And then I definitely want a channel audit table to go along with the ban audit table. I think both of those will kind of be shown. Did I put a I do have it created in here. Okay, that's good. This into the database here. Channel roll. Go. Now this. And these are off the false. Nothing, every column is required. We have foreign keys in place, and the primary key is a compound key between channel ID and target user ID. Correct. Alright, so that's good. That's good so far. So with that, we'll need a DAO like we normally do. Ooh. I'm gonna put under channel here because it has to do with the channel. So say channel role DAO. Um, here. Okay. What? ID. Moderator. Editor. Artist. Needed. I guess there's also, I mean, we could also think about other concepts. They're like VIP and all that stuff that aren't really roles. They're kind of badges and stuff, but I'm not gonna worry about that at the moment. Those can kind of slot in as I find a need for them. So let's see. That. Need a mapper. A row mapper. Or channel roll. Create. Mojo is that here. New. Last. Channel roll. Sizable. What? Here. Private ring channel private ring target user ID in moderator clear artist date date. And right, getters and setters. All right. We got channel roll here. Pull that in over here. Add edit method. Go. Do. Channel roll new roll. Artists. Queen. All the keys here. Okay, so channel ID here, user ID here, moderator there, there, needed. There. There. Okay, that is the mapper's done. So I want to private bring get user role for channel. Let's say select the test from channel roles. Channel ID is this, and target user this ID. Want to interjoin followers. Roles CR interjoin followers. CR that on if that target user ID equals CR.channel ID and if dot follower user ID equals cr dot target user. And f dot active true and f dot band false. Join entities I on your dot follower target user ID I dot short. I dot like I dot I dot active is true. Okay. And then we'll do formatted string equals join columns, comma, my thing that I have a placement for in there. Okay. All right. And then public channel role get user roles for channel bring user ID bring channel ID need here private the template put that in. Okay, so list channel row result equals template query, and I want one with the row mapper. So I want this, and then new channel row mapper, and then placement columns, which are channel ID, and then that. Right. Right. Channel ID, user ID. Channel ID. Yep. Okay. Return result. Stream. First, or else no. All right. So we either find a record or we return null on that. We just have to handle that. I wonder if I have not really used the @nullable annotations too much. I'm not really writing APIs here, but I wonder if I should start using it. Especially for things like this. But yeah, whatever. Now we need to actually insert roles. So static bring yeah, but new role. I'm gonna do insert into channel roles and ask. Now use question mark UID, question mark UID. Yep. Right. Right. So formatted. Fill. Join columns that string fills heat question mark a comma separator for columns dot length -2. Get rid of the first here. All right. And then I'll do public boolean insert role. Hey, Ella, welcome on in. Role. Yeah, I guess I'll just take the whole thing in channel role. It's gonna be, well, yeah, it was good. Insert, it's not really gonna be There's going to be an insert, but it's going to be insert or update. I'm going to have to figure out which one I want. The coding's going well. So far so good. Everything's rolling along. Just working on channel roles right now. I've got the following and follow a channel. I've got the start of banning and timing out users, but I can't finish that until there's actually a concept of roles like moderators and editors and artists and stuff like that. So for the channel, so I'm doing that right now, kind of putting those connections in, and we're buttoning all that up, and then I can integrate that back into the chat for moderator actions and stuff. And having audit logs of what the moderators have done and what the editors have done and all that stuff, so you can see in your chat as the owner of the channel, you can see like here's actions that have been taken by your moderators and stuff. And then also I have a ban audit table in there as well, so if a moderator bans somebody, they can write a reason in there, so you can see the reasons why someone's been banned or why they've been timed out, whatever the case may be. You can just go through and see all that stuff. So kind of just getting those hooks in there. Don't have the UI in place for them yet, but I need to get the sort of back end hooks in there. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And then I have to get the UI pieces in where you go on your channel and you can add moderators and all that stuff. So kind of working on that too. That'll be like, I think, the weekend project here. And then I gotta figure out what else is going to happen. As far as like, at some point I have to kind of punt and start getting like tests written, because I don't have really any tests in place, and I want to get those in place before I get too far down the pike here. And then, as I was saying to Varuna earlier, at some point I gotta bite the bullet here, or to Nameless Coder, one or the other. At some point I gotta bite the bullet here, and I've really gotta start working on like how, like, the back end of actually processing streams, like being able to connect OBS and have WebRTC running and all that stuff. And I want to try to get some of that off camera and some of that on camera, but we'll see how that goes, because I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of, I've never done anything like it before. There's going to be a lot of just kind of me staring at documentation going, what the hell is this? How the hell does this work? Kind of thing. Looking at spec sheets and things. But we'll see. But yeah, no, it's going good. It's going good. I mentioned too that crunch mode, I'm finally out of crunch mode at work. Today was code complete and I was finished yesterday, so today's been a pretty easy day. So good stuff there. I can finally the fog of war is lifting, and I can finally kind of relax a little bit and start to focus on other things again. YouTube channels, and also like health stuff and everything else. And just kind of putting everything off so that I can just I'm not distracted so much, that kind of thing. But good stuff. Just good stuff all around. That does bring up the one thing. I think Sunday, I'm almost positive I'm going to have a stream on Sunday. I think I'm going to stream to both Twitch and Live Space. Probably not YouTube. If I do stream to YouTube, I probably won't save the VOD. So, I mean, that's kind of the way I'm feeling on that one. But probably just to Twitch and live space. And I'm just gonna have like a just chatting stream, where I go through. I want to build up some lists of things to do, not only for coding stuff. Like I got a lot of, like I want to get like a little bit of a roadmap if I can for stuff ahead of me with the projects. I want to get a initial design in my head of the bots, the chat bot that I want to work on. I'll probably also take that. Well, we'll see. We'll see how. I still have to apply the live space to get developer access, and I haven't done that yet because I've been too busy. I have to do that too this weekend, and try to get all that straightened out, and see where to go from there. I also want to try to get a list of games I want to play next, and try to get that list together. And I also want to get a list of like first impressions videos I want to do, because it's been a while since I've looked through. I mean, I've been looking through my queues and stuff, my discovery queue and stuff like that. And I have stuff there, but I haven't really, and I have stuff wishlisted, but I haven't kind of planned anything out or really looked at anything. And I haven't looked at the other, like Epic in a while. I've been getting like all the free, every time it pops up and says there's free games for you available on Epic, I've gotten them, but I haven't looked at some of them that have come down for free. Actually look pretty good, and I haven't even really looked at them at all. I've just been like, yeah, free, whatever, get, and then and then forget about them. So I'd like to go through some of that too. So yeah, so that's for everybody watching. I think Sunday is going to be probably the first. It's actually really the first true, truly just chatting stream, I guess. I mean, technically I'll be doing stuff, but it'll be very highly unstructured, I guess. Be a lot less structure than there is for this, I think, for coding and stuff. So trying that out and see how that goes. But yeah, no, everything so far going pretty well. Oof. It wouldn't be a Memory Leak Death stream without me yawning either, apparently. I am hoping that let's see, I don't know what the weather is going to be next week, but I really hope the weather is warmer. Well, it says on my phone it's going to be 52 tomorrow, so that'll definitely be better. I can probably go for a walk in 52-degree weather. That I can probably deal with. Anything, like I was saying, anything below 50, I usually can't stand. So it's been like, this week has been kind of crappy for that as far as like cold weather. But I've only been able to go for a walk, I think, twice this week. So I want to make sure I get back on that. Consistency is the thing I really want right now. Sounds like good weather. Well, you don't really get cold weather though, right? That's something I expect someone who doesn't really get cold weather to say. Oh, 42, that sounds great. Like, not really. problem is not the problem is not the temperature. It's that when the temperature gets down to that point, it's almost always accompanied with wind, right? So it's like, yeah, it's 42 degrees outside with a wind chill of 27. You know what I mean? It's almost never a calm wind day. But up in the 50s, I can usually stand it a little bit better. Because that's, because my problem is, and this is one of the reasons I think why I was initially diagnosed with Raynaud's phenomenon, is that my hands and stuff get really, really cold when they really shouldn't be. Right? Like, I do have like an overreaction to cold weather, where it's like, there in fact, I even have some gloves. I bought some gloves that don't have the fingers, that have the fingers cut off, that I can still type with them on. But I bought some of those because even sometimes, like sitting in the house here where it's 70 degrees, sometimes my hands will just be absolutely frozen solid, and like the point where they're like white and getting chapped and stuff. Like, I mean, like, like pale and getting chapped and stuff. It's just a very weird, like, if the temperature is just a little bit too cold, like, 67 or something like that, it just freaks out. My body freaks out, and I have this weird reaction to it. All the blood comes out of your hand, and then you're just, it's like your body reacts as though you are hyperthermic. You know what I mean? Like, all the blood comes out of your extremities and starts to try to affect your heart. And it's like, it's not even that cold. It's like, why does this happen? And it's something that I think my mom had a similar phenomenon. She just was just never really diagnosed, because she had the same problem where I would walk in the house and she'd say, "Oh, you feel how cold my hands are?" And I'd feel, and they were like frozen solid. How are your hands so cold when you're sitting inside a like 75 degree house? But I'm starting to see the same thing, like adult onset for some reason. So that's just a weird thing. So when I go out for, long story short, when I go out for a walk, if it's a little bit too cold, like, I have to constantly put my hands in my pockets because they are literally cold. And it gets a little bit annoying. So I kind of have to, like, I try to manage that a little bit. It's pain on top of pain, essentially. So that's why I don't like going out in the colder weather, even with like a jacket on or something. Again, I guess I could get around that with having some gloves on or something. It's one of those things where if I bundle up too much and then I go for a walk, I end up just sweating like crazy into everything. And then you just gotta wash everything. You gotta wash your coat and everything, because it's just like, you've just sweat through everything. Which is not fun. But this is why I need to get like an alternative. I'm still looking at maybe getting a treadmill. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, because I'm going to need help getting that in the house, and I need to move things around first before I do it. So it's like, I kind of have to line up all that stuff. Because it's gonna be a heavy one. Gonna be, I think it's like, I looked at it, I think it's like 300 pounds or something. The actual treadmill that I want. Because I can't get the lightweight one because it's not going to hold my overweight ass. So I gotta get the steel reinforced one, which is like 300 pounds, but it'll be more stable and it'll work, which I guess is the more important part of that. But I also, there's I've been meaning to go around to, they opened about 5 years ago. They built a community center in my town here, and it has, like, not only does it have a small exercise facility in it, but it's got like an indoor track. So I've been meaning to like go over there and get like a visitor pass and see if I can get like see what it looks like, and then maybe see if I can get a membership to that, because it's actually a hell of a lot cheaper than like a gym membership. Like it's like, I think for people who live in this town, it's, for people who live outside they charge more, but for people who live in the township, it's like $200 for the entire year for a membership in there, which is fantastic given what the membership for like regular gyms are. But I just have to see what the, like, they have it tucked away, and so I'm like, how big is this actual facility? Because, like, are there any exercise, is there any exercise equipment actually available, during the day? How easy is it to get, access to the track? Because I think the track is around, like, they have either a basketball court or a squash court. I forget which one it is. And the track kind of goes around the outside of that. And that's not open all the time. So I'm like, well, it's going to be open when I need it. Like, what hours of the day is it open? All that stuff. So I have to do some investigation and do all that. Because that would be a good one. Like, on days when I definitely don't want to be walking the streets, I could be walking an indoor track where it's much more pleasant, probably. I mean, I also have like a gigantic mall that I could walk around. The only problem with that is there's so many people there that it's just like, it feels weird. Kind of sweating. You're walking around this giant mall and you're like sweating a little bit, and it's just like, feels a little bit weird with everybody around, And every 5 feet, some vendor stopping you like, hey, buy my cheap knockoff iPhone. Like, no thanks. It totally works. It's called J Phone. Like, yeah, no thanks. Or ear piercing and all that stuff. Like, no, I got enough problems with the holes I was bored with. I don't need any more. I don't need any more holes punched in me. Same with tattoos. I've got enough problems with the moles that I already have. I don't need more skin issues. I don't need needles to be giving me more problems. I'm just a party killer. Just a party killer. I'm no fun at all. Yeah, I've never like. You can't get tattoos due to your heart. Yeah, it's I just never. I just never found it appealing, honestly. You know, I mean, first of all, I don't really have the skin for it. Like I'm covered head to toe in moles that are just below the skin, right? So that's going to make any tattoo probably not take very well, you know. And second of all, it's like, I just never found it interesting or appealing. I don't know. I don't know why. I know a lot of people love it. It gives it, you know, find it that gives them, allows them to kind of exercise their personality a little bit. And I get it. And I kind of get where they're coming from, but I just never found it all that appealing. Like I've never looked at someone and said, "Oh, that's an awesome tattoo. You're suddenly hotter in my view." I'm like, If anything, it's quite the opposite. I see someone with a lot of tattoos, and I'm like, good on you, but ugh. I guess I'm just a shallow person. I mean, technically, you really want to get into it. Like, if you're sitting on a bus next to someone who has a tattoo, you're basically getting irradiated by them. It's not ionizing radiation, but it is radiation nonetheless. You know. So there's that. You know. Which is probably part of why people with a heart condition can't get it. I'm sure it's probably more of a leaching thing. Like they don't want the ink leaching into your bloodstream and causing you more issues. But yeah, that's. Well, I wonder. I mean, technically, I have hypertension, so I guess it wouldn't be good for me either. Even though I'm taking medication for it, you know, it probably wouldn't be good for me either, even if I did like them. And by the way, Outlaw, hope you're doing all right. I think the ink messed with your heart. Your last tattoo? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, part of that will leach into your bloodstream, right? So, I mean, that's kind of a given. Not a lot, but it's, you know, it might be enough to do something. But I was gonna say, I saw your latest health update. I hope you're doing all right. My dad has actually something similar. He had a thyroid thing. I guess it's hypo active, because it would be a slow thyroid, but basically he has like his thyroid started to slow down as well, and he has to take medication for that. The one thing, just waiting on meds. Yeah. The one thing I would say there, and again, I'm not. This is something between you and your doctor, but and I'm not a medical professional by any stretch of the imagination. But if I'm not mistaken, one of the things that the thyroid regulates is your brain chemistry, and maybe it might be worth making sure that you're like, okay, how can I put this without getting like crazy? Just like kind of make sure your memory is not affected by it, because I think so. My dad had, I mean, you know, my grandmother on my dad's side had full-blown Alzheimer's. So he's probably gotten some of that from her. But he has dementia now, and some of that can come from having, like, his thyroid was slowed down, and some of that, from what I understand, some of that dementia could be brought on from that. And it kind of, it's one of the things that always scares me a lot, because like he used to enjoy reading books and watching sports and everything, and now he can't focus long enough to watch any sports or read any books or anything. He just kind of, you turn the TV on and he just kind of stares off in the distance, you know, which really sucks. But that's, it's worth, again, I don't know really a whole how any of that works, but it's worth kind of like talking to your doctor and being like, you know, is there going to be a problem later on with like memory and stuff, and should we do something about that now, or what, you know? Is that why they're doing a head scan? Potentially. I'm not sure entirely. I know that the worst part of that is, like, for years prior to my dad really getting bad, we knew that he was starting to struggle with attention, and, you know, just kind of his memory was starting to get a little hazy, like more so than just age related. And we tried to get him to talk to the doctor to at least get him some medications that would like slow the deterioration down. And he wouldn't do it because he refused to believe that there was anything wrong with him. Which is why I say, like, dementia is, like, in many ways worse than like cancer, because if you're diagnosed with cancer, you never really hear a cancer patient being like, you know, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm not going to change my life or anything like that. They're usually like, I'm going to fight this, I'm going to come out on the other side stronger than I started, you know. But with dementia, it's like, it's very insidious. It makes you believe that there's nothing wrong with you, even though everyone can see that there is. And you end up refusing treatment that would otherwise help. So I'm not saying that that's, like I said, he had already had a family history of like Alzheimer's and stuff, so it's likely that there was a genetic component to all that. But it is, you know, the thyroid does regulate a lot of stuff in the brain, among other things. So it would be a good idea just to keep an eye on that. Or at least talk to your doctor, more or less just talk to your doctor about it. I don't know. I could be completely wrong, and I could be completely off base, but it's yeah, it's just one of those things, man. It sucks because for someone like me, I was wondering, but I appreciate it. Yeah, no problem. No problem. For me, it's like the scariest thing ever is just like not being able to think. Because everything I do, my entire job requires my brain. And if suddenly my brain's not working, like I literally have no other skill. This is the only skill I have. And if that stops working, then I am beyond screwed. This is like, so that's like my like nightmare scenario is to wake up and realize I can't remember anything. You know? Like I joke about my memory not being that great, and there are parts of it that aren't great, but like, you know, there's a difference between there's a difference in levels there, you know. I struggle with names and dates and phone numbers. But I always have, even as a kid. So there's nothing out of the ordinary for that for me. But I remember faces and I remember, you know, other details and stuff like that. So usually, anyway, at the end of the day, it's none of my business. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, it's, I just felt the need to offer something up there. I've seen, I've seen what happens on the other side of that particular train. Yeah, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do. With my dad too, because he's in an assisted living home right now, and they're not really helping him too much. Open now, to be transparent with anyone. That's fine. That's great. You know, I just don't. I don't like to. I don't like to offer advice because I don't have the. I don't like to offer advice on things that I don't have the professional knowledge on, like medical stuff and other things like that. You know, because I don't want to cause like panic or anything like that. It's, you know, I could be again just another quack on the internet. You know, it's one of those, like, you know, whisper down the lane kind of things. But yeah, we got to figure out what to do, because my dad's living situation right now, like, they're not really helping him out too much. I mean, he's got a roof over his head, but that's about it. It's a very expensive roof, and we tried to get him into like a VA home, assisted living home, and we just got a response that they rejected him, which just pisses me off to no end. Like, the man served our country, and the VA's like, yeah, fuck him, we're not going to take him. You know, they didn't really give us much of a reason other than we're not equipped to handle him. It's like, well, at least you could have done was point us to another VA place that is equipped to handle him, because somewhere along the way, someone's equipped to handle him. You know, I mean, how many? You know, you're talking about once soldiers, right? Like, how many of them have PTSD for the rest of their lives? And you're telling me, like, you have nothing. Like, you've got a man here who doesn't have PTSD, but you're telling me you don't have the facilities to handle someone, you know, like, who just has memory issues, you know? Crazy. It's crazy stuff. So we're trying to, like, figure out what to do with that now, because it's insane, like, how badly we as a society treat the elderly, right? It's like the worst thing you can do, apparently, in the US is grow old. grow old and require assistance, you know. If you grow old and then just randomly croak someday, but you were taking care of yourself the whole way, you're fine. But if you need any kind of, like, assistance or anything, man, it's just, and you aren't made of money, good luck. Like, you've got people of my dad's generation who are, like, my dad is 90, right? Like, you've got people of his generation who are on their last legs. They worked all their lives, barely made ends meet, and now they need some help, and suddenly they can't get any help, you know? All that stuff that they paid into, all the Social Security and all that stuff, it's not enough to cover what they need, what their needs are. And then every single place is so predatory, right? It's like, okay, we'll take care of your elderly parents, but when they die, we get everything. You get nothing. All their money is ours. All their properties are ours. You know, it's like, Jesus, you guys are freaking vampires, right? Holy hell. You know? And that's just, it's insane, really. Really insane. You know? So, we have to figure out what to do with all that, too. Yeah. Because hell when, like, I mean, if you have kids that can take care of you and stuff, that's one thing. And, you know, my brother was taking care of him for a while. But when you need professional care, like, you know, memory care and all that stuff, it's, you know, you're suddenly not qualified for that. You need someone to be able to handle that stuff, right? Because what's even worse is we're in a situation now where, you know, we're well into an era where both parties who live in a house have to, you know, both parties in the house have to work in order to just make ends meet. You know, so you've got, you know, both people trying to work to make ends meet, and you're trying to take care of an elderly, you know, relative and who needs additional help, and then, you know, you try your best to, like, hire nurses and stuff to come in, but it's not enough. They're not, you know, he needs more attention you can't give, and then it, like, spirals out of control to where it's just, you end up signing everything over because you can't because of the realities of life, you know. That's I think that's the biggest failing we've had as a society so far, is that we're still stuck in this mindset of, oh, you'll grow old, but then there'll be someone there, your family will take care of you and all that stuff. And it's like, that maybe was true, decades ago, but it's not anymore, unless you're, again, independently wealthy. If you're independently wealthy, that's another day at the office. But for most people, middle class, just not even doable anymore. It's like I was watching the John Oliver talking about the student loans and stuff, and how crazy those have gotten. Like, they literally had somebody. I can see how this person got into this problem, but at the same time, it's like they were really over a barrel. They had a student loan for, I think they said they owed $67,000 on their, or supply, $60,000 or $70,000 they originally took out on a student loan, and or 80, no, it was 80 something thousand, and they had been paying the loan for 10 years. They've paid $120,000 towards the loan, and they still have $65,000 left on their principal, because almost all of their money, their monthly payment was like $720 a month, and $690 of that dollars was going towards interest, and only like $60 was going towards the principal. It's like, holy hell, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. And I can see, having had the loan and stuff, I can see how that happened, right? Like, I made sure when I got out of college, I mean, I only had like $50,000 in loans. So I it's a whole different ball game there, because I was before everything started getting wildly out of control. But I made sure to put additional payments down every month on the principal, because I was, like, the interest payments were far outweighing the principal even when I was paying them. I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I put additional payments down on the principal. Like, I'm going to double up on the principal payment and make sure it's earmarked for the principal, and then just kind of knock it down that way. Of course, I was still living at home with my parents too, so I was able to save some money that way. And just kind of like, I made sure to knock those loans out as soon as I freaking could, because I knew that they were just going to hang over my head until I did. But a lot of people just don't have that luxury, especially when you're talking double the amount of what I had, It's crazy. Absolutely insane. And what is even worse with that is, there are government programs in place that say that if you've been paying your loan for more than 10 years, you're supposed to be able to have your loan be forgiven. And what they were saying is that a lot of these loan servicing companies now, the federal loan servicing companies, aren't tracking your payments correctly. And so people who have paid 10 years and are now technically available for loan forgiveness, aren't being tracked properly. And when they go and ask about it, they're like, oh, you don't qualify. And I think he talked to someone who was in the military. She went to the military and she was doing automatic payments on her student loans while she was in the military. And it was automatically coming out, and it was the amount, each month and all that stuff. And she did it for 10 years. And she went to apply to the servicing company to get loan forgiveness. And they said, oh, the automatic payments were, there was a bug in their system that they knew about for years, where the automatic payments were 1 cent short every month. And so all those months she paid, she was 1 cent short of being qualified, quote unquote, having a qualified flag of paying the correct amount each month, and having those months count towards the 10 years of forgiveness. 1 cent it was off by. It was a rounding error, literally a rounding error. And they knew about it in their system, and she still had to fight with them for years before they finally, I think she had to fight with them for 3 years before they finally relented and let her go through the loan forgiveness process. That's insanity. Absolute insanity. Yeah. And that's where we're at. And you just get into all that craziness. You extend that out to, people have to work. They can't take off of work when they need to. You have family that needs you, and you can't do it because you need the money and all this. We're in such a weird, cracked state. You know what I mean? Sometimes here, where it's just like, I don't know how anyone's expected to survive, and yet we still all have that. There's still that popular belief that you're just gonna be independent and you're just gonna have to figure it out. I'm not going to help my neighbor out. Why should I pay for their blah blah blah? Nobody's paid for my blah blah blah, and I made it. Okay, like you need some high, cold, very cold dose of reality. And that's unfortunately what's happening. We get this sort of fog of unreality that kind of hangs over us because we're all the heroes of our own stories, right? We all worked hard and fought hard and get to where we're at, and goodness forgive if it was, it wasn't, I didn't get here by pure luck. I put all kinds of effort in. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. We all feel the same way. But at the end of the day, did I put effort in to get to where I'm at with coding? Yes. Did I put a lot of long hours in? Yes. Was I damn lucky and able to use that luck to turn this into a career? Yeah. I will never take for granted that luck was a huge thing that allowed me to be successful. Plenty of people who work harder than me and have not had that lucky break, the lucky breaks that I've had. And it sucks. But, there's a part of life there too, that's, it would be great if everyone could get lucky It'd be great if, I mean, one of the things that segment brought up too is one of the things that I've been saying, which is there's a lot of jobs that just absolutely require a college education for no good reason. Like administrative assistants, they brought up administrative assistants, right? But I would say, and I've been saying this for a while, I don't think software development requires a college degree. And yet anywhere you go, any technology company you go to, they want a bachelor's degree. And it's bonkers because it's not doing anything. 90% of the time it's not doing it. Like if you're in a highly scientific role, first of all, you're probably not a software developer. You're probably a, biologist or a geologist or something like that. And the software development you're doing is a result of that. Like, you're typing formulas in and you're deriving results from that directly. But if you do find yourself as a software developer in support role for a scientist or, a scientific role, like for instance, I found not even a scientific role, but you find yourself as a software developer in a support role. Like I worked in insurance for a little while. Insurance actuarials are super uber math nerds. Like they pull numbers out of the freaking ether at will, right? And insurance there is a lot of math involved in it, right? But the thing is, I didn't need to know any of the math, right? Someone else knew the math. The QA knew the math. The actuaries knew the math, right? They just gave me the formula and said, we need you to model this formula. Boom. Okay, I'll model that formula. Done. You derived it for me. Boom. I'll model it. I know algebra. I know high school algebra. Right? That's all I've ever needed was high school algebra for my job. That's it. Right? Not even geometry. I mean, if I was doing games, I might need to know a little bit of geometry. Maybe. But again, you're dealing with formulas that people have already derived. Right? You're probably going to go on Google and say, yep, copy paste, that looks good to me. Right? Transforming a spline in 3-dimensional space. Yep, that looks good. Right? Or you're going to have an engine do it for you, like Unreal Engine. Right? So why then does it require that I have a bachelor's degree? Or why does it require anybody in my position to have a bachelor's degree? I'm not using that degree. Sure, I went to college and I learned a little bit of coding, but in reality, I already knew the coding before I went in there. I'm self-taught, right? All college really did was reinforce a few of the basics, which I already had. It didn't teach me how to do the things I use every day, like, GitHub or, source control, or, database stuff. Not really. I learned database stuff on my own, all that stuff, right? It's like, all this stuff is stuff that I just picked up. Either picked it up on the job, most of it I picked it up on the job, or I, was coding stuff in my room, in DOS, in QBasic, just learning the ropes. I picked up a book and I read a book, right? And to that end, a lot of developers that I've hired didn't have, like, I have a computer science degree. there's usually only a very few of us who have computer science degrees. In most of the companies that I've worked at, there've been very few people who had computer science degrees. Most of them have had like math degrees or English majors or arts majors or whatever, right? And they all went through college, they got their degree, and they said, I can't really find anything with my geography degree. But this computer thing I kind of like. Let me learn that. Let me maybe take a course or two online for it. Well, I kind of like this. Let me see if I can get a job. They come and talk to me, and I'm like, okay, you seem like you know what we need, and and anything you don't know, we'll just teach you on the job. So you're hired, right? So you're sitting with like English majors and stuff, right? They didn't go. What is their college degree doing for them for their job? Nothing, right? They don't even have the technically don't even have the right degree, right? The right major, and yet they're writing code as good or better than what I'm writing, you know. So, what was the point, right? And I think that's what it gets to is like why are we restricting some of these careers to things that don't make any sense? It's like someone decided at some point. It's kind of like lawyer stuff, right? Like there's law firms that will only hire graduates from Ivy League school, right? Now, why is that? Because they're just it's just their thing. They want to be an exclusive club, right? There's no reason why someone who didn't go to an Ivy League school couldn't be as good or better than someone who did, right? And yet it's just kind of an exclusive club that they've created. Now, for some careers like lawyers and doctors and things of that nature, I think they should have college degrees because they need to be licensed and all that stuff. But I think if there's a license involved, then yes. But if you're in a situation where there's no, like, I'm not, I've been called a software engineer, but I'm not a licensed engineer, right? I don't have a license. I'm just a schlub that knows how to write some code, right? And pretty much any schlub that knows how to write some code can come in off the street and do a decent job. And if they can't do a decent job, I can mentor them and they'll do a decent job after I'm done mentoring them. You know what I mean? Like, on the job training is something that happens all the time. In fact, it's like a built-in given almost. No one's going to walk into a software company and be immediately valuable. There's rare cases when that happens, but it's very rare. Everybody has a spin-up period. Everybody has to learn the system, learn the processes that are in place for quality control and all that stuff. That's why in software development, brain drain is such a big deal. Like when people leave the company, they take all that knowledge with them. And now you can't simply replace them with someone else because someone new comes in has to now learn all that stuff all over again. They don't have that knowledge with them about the current system. They have knowledge, general knowledge. They have knowledge of other systems they worked on, but they don't have knowledge of the current they're going to be dealing with, and it's a big problem. It's a big deal. But again, it's not, we must have a college degree kind of deal. It's more of a how's your liver today kind of deal. How many beers can you swill and still be useful kind of deal. Yeah. More than anything else, it's the old Balmer curve, as we call it. the correct. How long can you maintain the optimal blood alcohol concentration for coding? But yeah, and it's all that stuff. Like it, we're forcing so many people to just spend, instead of having those 4 years be actual experience, we're forcing them to take 4 years of nonsense before we actually get them and then they still come out and we still have to train them. It's, I don't know. I feel like I'm railing against the machine a bunch anymore. The older I get, the more I keep yelling at the kids to get off my lawn. Except I'm not really yelling at the kids. I'm yelling at the old folks to get off my lawn. I'm yelling at the establishment. I'm anti-establishment, man. Oh, it's fun. What can I say? These are just the things that kind of pick me off about, because I feel like there's so many. We have excluded so many good people from software development for no effing reason, right? There's so many people out there who could pick up and just start writing code and just be fantastic, but we put this artificial barrier in their way. Now they can't do it. And it's a real shame, because I think there's as much. I've been in this career since 2003, and there has not been a year where there has not been a shortage of software development in all that time. You hear about a lot of developers getting laid off from companies, but almost always they find a new role somewhere else. It's only the very few who really didn't. I hate to say this, but who really didn't have the skills in the first place that don't land on their feet. Or unwilling to go where they need to go, or compromise the way they need to compromise. And usually you'll hear about them in an already, like, in a market that's kind of saturated already. Like, you'll hear about them in like California and like Silicon Valley and stuff, where it's just like, yeah, everybody and their grandmother wants to be in Silicon Valley, right? There's more people there than there is work on a normal day. But if they were to expand out, go on the East Coast or something, they'd probably find a job in no time, flat. Because there's always been, at least on the East Coast anyway, a shortage. And yet that's never really not been the case. Even in downturn, that's never not been the case. And it's just, it's strange to then see like the amount of barriers we put in place and then on top of that, my point there is that the people that we do have, we have a lot of good people, but we also have a lot of people who really aren't that great. But they managed to get over that hurdle of having a college degree, right? The only hurdle we put in their place. And then we needed them so badly that we didn't care that they couldn't really do the job. But they got that hall pass, right? So it's like we had removed that hall pass, requirement. We could actually see more competition for more talented people actually enter into the business. Be more competition for that. I don't know. Maybe I am just the crazy one. Everyone else is correct, and I'm just the one that's got the tinfoil hat on and screaming about aliens. I don't know. It's just it's one of those things, I would love to see, people often say like you see a lot of these efforts to try and make software development more diverse, particularly try to get more women involved in software development roles. And it's very difficult because of the barriers we've put up, and not just the college barrier, but there's other unfortunate culture things that also take place that prevent a lot of them from a lot of participation as well. And I think a lot of that culture stuff came from the fact that there are people that we've given these roles to that really aren't even that good themselves, but they got the roles because there was such a lack of qualified individuals, quote unquote qualified, who got over that hump, So I don't know. One of those things. They made fun of Mulder and he turned out fine. I want to believe. Let's see what we got here. I'll do an update. Yeah, so insert new role. And then do the columns here. So it's going to be role that I do them in the right order. The channel ID, target user ID, channel ID, target user ID, moderator, editor, artist. Moderator, editor, artist, created and last updated, right? Hold that, get created date. Go. And turn rows to 0. Sectional. Cool. So I need to be able to handle, so that's the insert, but I also need to be able to handle an update. case the role, in case you're just updating a role. So, private static final string update role. Cool. Say update channel roles. That's let me update here. So really it's only moderator, editor, artist at last updated. So moderator, editor. That stuff data is just going to be now. Not going to really specify it. I guess I didn't really need to make that public stack final because it's going to be. So not. What's the? I'm not doing any formatting in it, so public boolean update role channel role equal where to do it as a damn it. That's not what I wanted. How would you do that? This way. It now where channel ID and a target user ID. Channel ID is UID and target user ID UID. Sure. So rows expected PC template updates. Cool, and then we want role that is moderator. I gotta do these in the order of the question marks. Is moderator, role is editor, role is artist, and then role gets channel ID, role get target user. Okay. Turn expected row transactional one. Oh, cool. So that transactional annotation basically tells Spring JDBC that to wrap these queries in a transaction, so that if something happens where the insert fails or the update fails for whatever reason, it will roll back any changes it made to the database. So the database is always in a consistent state, not half, a row isn't half updated. That's all that's really doing. And in all honesty, it's probably not even that necessary, given that these are like self-contained SQLs. So, the database is going to roll that back anyway. But I do want to make sure there's no I'm not doing dirty reads, which is to say I'm not reading I'm not reading uncommitted rows. I'm only reading things that have been committed to the database, but it's still good to do it just in case and make sure that everything is committed properly at the end and all that stuff. So and then what we really need, but the one thing with a transactional though is that annotation is that it's doing aspect J, which means it's wrapping the beginning of our method and the end of our method with its own code to handle starting the transaction and ending the transaction. But if you call it from another transactional method, it doesn't apply then. So you kind of have to make sure that every method that needs it has it. So I'm going to create another method here. Well, two methods really. I'm going to have one that I guess no, I won't need it for that one. But if I were to do like an insert or update, like if I were to make a method here that says insert or update new role, that would then figure out whether or not to call the insert new role method or the update role method. I would have to also make that transactional so that it would actually really apply the transaction, because if it came in here and it didn't have it, it would not suddenly then apply it once it called one of these methods. Kind of a weird issue they have with it, how they apply the aspect to the method. So, but in this case, I'm going to put a method here that tells me whether or not the role already exists. I'm going to call that instead. And then, because typically what you would do in this situation when you're doing what's essentially an upsert, you're doing an update or an insert depending on what you need. Normally, especially if a database supports an upsert, you would probably do the upsert. I don't know if PostgreSQL probably supports an upsert. I'm probably making this harder on myself than I absolutely need to. But in reality, it's just what a lot of people will do is they'll do the insert. We'll call that, and if it fails to insert because it's a primary key violation because there's already a record there, then they'll capture the exception that comes back and then they'll call the update. I don't generally like to do that because I don't like forcing an exception to happen, because exception processing is always slow. Like, I don't think it's ever been fast in any programming language out there. It's got to build up the whole stack trace and shove that up the pipeline and all that stuff. And it's in my head, it's better to just say, like, look, I'll run two SQL queries, right? I'll run one that just does a count to say, okay, is there a record here? And then if there is, then I'll call update. If there isn't, then I'll call insert. And I'd rather the two SQL queries than always be running two SQL queries, rather than like sometimes running two and sometimes not. To me, it's just the performance benefit from one versus the other is probably negligible. I've never actually run it, so I don't know, but I would say it's probably negligible versus, if I'm just running a select count star, versus have the insert fail and then do the update. So taking that to public Boolean role exist. We'll say string channel ID, string user ID. we'll say as channel roles. That. And here we'll do equal count star from channel roles where channel ID is whatever and target user ID is boom. Results is PC template dot query for object cool class, and we'll say I need to pass channel ID first and then user ID second. Boom. Turn result greater than 0 means we found a result, and so there are channel roles there for that person. Yeah, there we go. All right, Outlaw. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it, and you have a good night, sir. I'm probably going to be wrapping up soon myself. It's 12:30 for me. But yeah, you have a good night, and we'll see you soon. Okay, so we got the channel roles there. Channel roles, update role, insert new role. Get user roles for the channel. And if I'll need the variant of, like, you know, has this role, has that role, has this role, has that role. I don't think that's really going to be useful or necessary. I think it's just easier to just pull the whole record down and just look at it. Like, pull the whole object for that person and just bring it down. I think we're good there then. That, so what I want to see is we have, I put a service layer here. Maybe. Follower service. Yeah, let's do new package, and we'll say channel role. Best channel role service. All right, and logger. Factory, get logger, role service. Good. Private, channel role, AO. So I'll wire that. Okay, good. And we'll say public. Yeah, because I could even have it like, I could even do those checks in the service layer here too. If I really needed to. I'm also thinking about one thing I wanted to kind of look at too. Let me put a pin in that for a second. Channel role, get user role channel, and screen channel IDs, screen user ID. Right. And then we'll just call turn channel role dot this ID. Go. And then public boolean state or insert channel role. Channel role. And then here's where I go and say if channel role DAO has channel role. So role that get channel ID, role that get target user ID. Then do and return role DAO dot update role. Otherwise, return channel DAO dot insert new role. And let's make sure. Insert new role. Let's make sure role dot edit date. No. That sure those are maintained for an insert anyway. And okay. That's good. And that's it for right now for that. I want to look at something. So I'm going to continue this tomorrow. Do any actual UI and stuff for that together. Because that'll be on the settings page and stuff. But I want to look at something here. One of the things one of the nice things I saw in Elixir was something called Bodyguard. Yeah. So basically, this allowed you to kind of see whether someone was permitted based on a policy to do whatever function they're going to do. You would call this right before you would do something, and it would tell you whether they're authorized or not authorized or something like that. And I'm wondering if there's something kind of similar for Java. Bodyguard. Um, Security. JCast, what is it? Off with fraud prevention. Then SSO, MFA. Okay, no, this is like well beyond what I'm. That's the whole like logging in and everything. I'm really just looking for something that would do. Like Java Spring check permission. So I know there's a pre-authorized annotation, but this is stuff that's been set up by Spring Security. I'm looking for stuff. I'm looking for roles that are just it's method level security, check only the required permission. Resist. Decision voters, access decision manager. Yeah, close, but not really what I was hoping for. Yeah, I guess it's going to be something that I just have to check on my own. You should roll. How about body color? Well. Thomas DB utils, no. Their guard clause utility helper class. Not the same thing. Is GraphQL. These are more Elixir. Yeah. Same thing. Well, I guess the might be interesting to look at some of those. See if they have an equivalent somewhere else. Weren't made damn ads. What did? What the hell? Okay, let me icon for GitHub. Yeah. Can for Ruby on Rails. That might give me something. Can. Wonder if there is. There we go. Because Ruby's been around long enough that this would be asked. Wait, is that the one I was just looking at? Yeah. Little bit. Object, inform. Oh, I guess this role mappings. What Jake Husband does not do: authentication. Verify using the password when user logs in. Manage list of users or roles. Okay. Well, this is okay. So this is closer to what I want. Earn MetaModel policy effect request match. So access control, this role-based access control. Attribute-based access control. I'll have to look at this. See if this is Spring Boot. Spring security integration in the future, Shiro integration in the future. Don't necessarily need that integration. Tutorials. Forster. The policy in the database instead of file. Ooh, okay. First one hook into your code right before the access happens. This is okay, yeah, this is exactly what like Bodyguard did. You would call Bodyguard right before you do the action, and then yeah, enforce. Interesting. Okay. This is basically what I'm looking for. Policy, persistence, role managers. I don't really need persistence. I just needed to read it in. Okay. I'm gonna keep this in mind here because that looks kind of like what I'm looking for. Open that. Values with that interceptor. Processing, emoji marks. Okay, I've wrangled my tabs back again. That's good. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good for tonight, my friends. Oh, we'll keep an eye on this. I'll look at stuff for this as well because I kind of want to use that if I can. Make life a little bit easier because I do like how Bodyguard did it. I don't necessarily like how you had to set up Bodyguard in Elixir, but I like how clean it made the code because you could just say like Bodyguard check, and then it would just skip that block if the person didn't have permissions via the role, for that. Makes the code a little easier. You're not constantly checking like this role. You just kind of say like they need this in order to proceed. And now the question with this is how easy is this to like unit test? I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably pretty easy to unit test because it's keeping stuff in memory, but we'll see on that. Anyway, my friends, I'm not going to commit anything right now. We're just going to roll into tomorrow with this and try to get all the stuff into the UI. Now we have the back end together and we've thought about it and all those things. Put some thought into it and all the stuff, my friends. So that will do it for me for tonight. I'm just trying to make sure that I have to quit Docker because when the computer goes to hibernate, Docker sometimes doesn't like so I just do that to make sure it'll be responsive when I come back. Anyway, I think it's time for me to go see if there's someone out there that we can on LiveSpace that we can send you guys over to. Let's see who is doing what here. Anybody under? No, not really. Create it. Nope, nothing there. All right, let's see who's under gaming. Oh, looks like Cornet and Shin are doing Helldiver stuff. Oh, but Koi is playing some Dragon's Dogma 2. So I'm going to send you over there. And please, if you go say hello and all those things. And all that. Yeah, he's still going. Okay, it just took a minute. For it to load up there. Yep, you can go say hi to Koi and watch some Dragon's Dogma and stuff. There's the links in the various chats. Yep, that again will do it for me for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon, hopefully. I'll try to get my walk in early if I can. And we'll get started, we'll get running, and we'll continue with what we're doing. And then again, on Sunday as well, I'm probably going to do a just chatting, probably my first ever really just chatting stream, I guess, where I just try to get some things together, get some lists together, get some ideas for what games I should play next, and also just kind of gather my thoughts on a lot of things. So that will be, normally I would, on Sundays I would only do LiveSpace, but I'm going to do, since it's just chatting, I'm going to do LiveSpace and Twitch. I'm going to try it out on Twitch, depending on who shows up, the quality of person that shows up on Twitch or just chatting stream will determine whether I ever do just chatting again on Twitch. Let's put it that way. So we'll keep it at that, my friends. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I hope everyone has an excellent morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what it is for you. And hope to see you back here again in the future for some more stuff, whatever happens to suit your fancy. Until then, see you, bye.
Same old story. Boy finds girl, boy loses girl, girl finds boy. Boy forgets girl, boy remembers girl. And girl dies in a tragic blimp accident over the Orange Bowl on New Year's Day.
Good year.
No, the worst.